Hello guys and welcome to the Plug Talk. I'm Titus and you're probably wondering what's the Plug Talk. So the Plug Talk is basically a broadcast that's going to be discussing things about cars, things concerning cars. There's a lot to talk about cars, but on this broadcast we're going to be talking about the mechanical parts of cars, mechanical advices, things you can do to your car for yourself, things you can choose for your car, oils, fuels and all that in this broadcast. So all these findings, all these advices are based on personal findings, but we are open to discussion and correction because I know, but if we combine the knowledges, we'll come up with a better knowledge, better understanding. Yes, and I don't want to call this a podcast because we'll be getting some episodes in a house setting like this one, and then some other ones we'll be getting them from out there in the workshop or in any other places because cars are everywhere apart from being in the house. So let's get it. So without further ado, let's get into today's business because today we are going to be talking about fuels. There are different types of fuels. And so what's fuel? Fuel is a substance that converts chemical energy into mechanical energy. It has energy stored in it as a chemical, as potential energy. Then you can do something to it to transform that energy from chemical energy to mechanical energy, like in an engine. Internal combustion engines, they convert fuel into mechanical energy which drives your vehicle. So there are different types of fuel. There's petrol, there's diesel, there's LPG, but today we're going to be talking about grades of petrol and diesel. And for some other people this might be common knowledge, but to some others, I've seen some girl on X saying that she didn't even know that there are different types of fuel like petrol and diesel. So you'll be surprised to find out in those categories of fuel there are subcategories, there are ratings of fuel like petrol and diesel. There's a rating. We'll start with petrol, whereby it's rated according to its octane rating. What's octane rating? Octane rating is the ability of petrol to resist knocking in the combustion chamber. Knocking is actually preignition because when you compress fuel, it might tend to ignite before it's fully compressed and the spark is introduced into the combustion. For petrol to burn, it has to be compressed first in the combustion chamber, then a spark is induced to make it expand and push the piston downwards to create that reciprocating motion that's going to be translated by the crank into rotary motion. The lower the octane rating of a petrol, the more the chances of preignition of the petrol inside the combustion chamber before the spark is introduced. And that's bad, you see, because knocking will make when fuel is burnt before it's fully compressed, there's loss of efficiency, and that knocking can cause a lot of pressure. It causes pressure before the top dead center is reached. So now it's causing stress to the engine components, and over a long time that's going to be detrimental to your engine. That's going to cause some damage to your engine, so you don't want that. The lowest rating for octane in petrol is 87 octane, and that's the regular. And then you'll find 91 octane, which is the standard or middle grade octane. Many vehicles can run on 91, although in Kenya we use 93, which they label as premium, but there's another higher premium which is like 95 to 98 octane, which is used for engines with very high compression like the V8 twin turbos. You cannot put 91 octane in that vehicle, it's going to knock badly. And mind you, it has like 8 cylinders, so imagine preignition in like 8 cylinders. That's very detrimental to the engine. So in higher compression engines, you'll find mostly they use higher octane rating petrol, like 95, 98, that's the premium. But in Kenya, we use 93 octane. That's the fuel you'll find a lot in the pumps. in Kenya, I think V-Power, and I stand to be corrected, V-Power in different countries has different octane ratings. But in Kenya, if you get V-Power, you will get 95 octane. You will also find E10 fuel, which is like 90% of premium unleaded, which is like 95 to 98 octane, coupled up with like 10% of ethanol. So ethanol is an oxidizer. It makes the burning of that fuel easier by introducing oxygen in the system, you see. So E10 actually burns better because it's fuel that has enhanced burnability, if I can use that word, burnability. So it's more efficient, it's eco-friendly, because now the fuel is getting a little bit more burnt, because fuels are hydrocarbons. They are derived from fractional distillation of crude oil. So introducing something that can make them burn more easily helps them to be eco-friendly, and that's E10 fuel. You will find some other guys who say they use methanol for their racing vehicles. And why methanol? It's because methanol combusts very easily. And the next thing is that methanol takes a lot of latent heat with it when it's evaporating. So that makes it become like a cooling agent in the engine. Mind you, this engine is a drag race engine. This engine is supposed to go from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. And that's why it's operating at very wild temperatures. So you can't use a fuel that's going to add more heat to the engine. You are actually intending to use a fuel that's going to take some heat with it. As it burns, it takes some heat with it as it evaporates. So that's methanol, and that's why you'll find some cars using pure methanol. It's like these hot rods, those hot rod engines with superchargers on top. Mud engines, you'll find they use methanol. They can't be using just regular fuel, because that car is not a normal road car. That car is destined for the moon. You see them, they even fly. So they use methanol for burnability, if that's a word. So having covered petrol, we can look at diesel. And in diesel, we have the rating factor, which is known as cetane rating. So now cetane rating shows just how easily diesel ignites, because diesel doesn't burn like petrol. It has to reach a certain flash point after compression. In a diesel vehicle, you have to compress air first, then you spray mist diesel, atomized diesel onto compressed air so that it can explode. Diesel burns in this way. It's not like petrol, which uses a spark plug. You have to compress air, then introduce diesel in mist form, because it does not burn as a liquid like petrol. It has to be atomized, sprayed like a very fine spray by injectors into the combustion chamber, where it meets with the compressed air. When you compress air, it gets hot, so it explodes. And that's why diesel vehicles have a lot of smoke, because the combustion is not like combustion, it's like an explosion. Yes, so we have two types of diesel according to the cetane rating. So we have the low cetane rating, that's like grade 2, which has 42 to around 45 there, which doesn't burn that readily, And in a cold start, lower cetane diesel is going to show you bad things, because it's not going to light up easily. And there is premium diesel, which is like 48 to 55. That's premium grade diesel. In Kenya, we use 48 cetane diesel, which is low sulfur. It's like 0.05%. That's the one KEBS approves. KEBS is Kenya Bureau of Standards. It has approved that you should use 48 cetane diesel, because it burns easily and it pollutes the environment less. And then you'll find that in very cold countries, whereby you have to start your vehicle in the morning in a cold start, that's where they use grade 1, like where for diesel, the initial startup is the most important thing in a diesel vehicle, the startup. And you see cetane rating is basically a measure of how easily diesel ignites. So imagine you're trying to start a vehicle in a cold area like Russia and using low cetane diesel. That one is going to be detrimental to you. It's going to be very hard because you'll have to crank. You've seen older vehicles, guys used to light up a fire for the engine to warm up so that the diesel can ignite. But anyway, here in Kenya, it's in the tropics, so we don't get that much of cold unless it's in July and around August, especially here in Nairobi, it's so cold. And another thing that's incorporated in nowadays vehicles is glow plugs. They help, they assist, they prolong the combustion chamber before the diesel has started to burn, so it makes it burn easily. And somebody might be asking, what are additives? You see people add some stuff, some substances in fuel to make it more efficient. Additives usually enhance the cetane rating of diesel, and they might have detergents. You see, diesel vehicles have a lot of carbon buildup, so you have some additives that incorporate detergents in order to clean up the carbon that's found deposited in the engine. So they are going to make the engine more efficient because the diesel is going to burn easily, and it will be cleaner to the vehicle and to the environment. And I guess that's pretty much for today. More episodes are coming where we'll be covering some more stuff. And if you guys support us, bro, we'll go far. And that's it for today. Thank you, guys.